starting a little bit early.
And 20 seconds now, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
20 seconds now.
Yeah.
10 seconds. 5 seconds.
Good evening. I'm Frances McIntyre with the Austin League of Women Voters. We are here tonight in the 10th of 11 forums sponsored by the City of Austin Ethics Review Commission and moderated by the Austin League. This is a historic event for the City of Austin, being the first time the city will be governed by 10 district representatives and a mayor elected at large. There has been tremendous interest in having district representation, exemplified by the 78 candidates vying for 11 positions. We wish to welcome the 12 candidates in tonight's forum and applaud your interest in serving the people of Austin in District 3. We also welcome those in the audience and those watching or listening in other mediums, and we are confident that you will all be voting in November. The League of Women Voters, now celebrating its 94th year, is a nonpartisan political organization with both men and women members that promotes the informed and active participation of citizens in government. The League does not support or oppose any political party or candidate. The city has provided a list of tonight's candidates and how you can access the video of this forum on your computers. They are available at the table out front. Please let your friends and neighbors know that they can see exactly what you are seeing tonight and be as informed as you will be. We are happy to announce that interpretive services are available in Spanish and in American Sign Language. Because of the number of candidates and the time allotment for this forum, time is of the essence. We hope you all took advantage of the 5-minute taping on Channel 6, where you have more time than tonight to express your views. In the interest of time, we will not take questions from the audience tonight, although we have had input from League members and a great many organizations and individuals who have contributed to these questions. Our format for tonight's forum will be as follows. Each candidate will be given 1 minute for an opening statement and 1 minute for a closing statement. Following the opening statements, the question and answer period will begin. The questions will be asked are unknown to the candidates. Each candidate will be given 1 minute to answer the question. Candidates will be called on a rotating basis to be the first one to answer the next question. Candidates, please keep your eyes on the timekeepers over here. Timekeeper, 1. In the interest of getting as many questions as we can in this allotted time, when you see the stop sign, please comply. Before we begin, let me state that the views that will be expressed are those of the candidates and not the sponsor, the Ethics Review Commission, and that the sponsorship of this forum is not an endorsement of any candidate. According to the guidelines of the League of Women Voters, there must be no applause or demonstrations of support or opposition from visitors in this room. We are here to listen and respect each candidate and learn from them how they would make a good representative for this district. At the end of the forum, applause is allowed. Candidates are asked to refrain from any personal attacks of opponents, and in the interest of time, we will not introduce the candidates, but let them proceed to the opening statement. Where are we starting? Mr. Bonilla, would you start with the person? To your, okay, sorry.
My last name is yours Bonilla, not Bonilla.
Okay, thank you. Your opening statement, please.
Hi, my name is Ricardo Turrios Bonilla. Today I will present my political reform plan for the reconstitution of Austin by triads. The triad philosophy of common sense states that planning consists in both pushing from the past, pulling from the future, and creating in the present. We need to be creative, and we are creative. But we don't create out of nothing like our creator in turn. Rather, we create out of something already out there, out of contraries. These contraries are then elevated, and their mutual infinities add out and lend support to the second story of the social edifice. Order is only found where there's a triad in place in society, and chaos where it's missing. Yesterday, in the economic reform plan, we proposed the creation of the universal sector to coexist alongside the private and public sectors of the economy. Today, we're proposing the creation of the universal party of the middle-class righteousness to stand on the shoulders of pro-capital Republican Party conservatism and pro-labor Democratic. Leadership consists of insight, knowledge, and courage. Thank you very much.
As this race has progressed, I have emerged as the candidate who's in charge or the candidate who best represents our district. I'm the anti-establishment candidate. We went through so much trouble to get 10-1 passed. We went through so much trouble to break apart the monopoly that the City Council was holding upon us. Let's not waste this opportunity. Let's be careful to not re-elect another candidate that is just going to follow suit and act the same way that the previous City Council has behaved. My history is open. You can go online. You can see where I voted in primaries. You can see that I've run twice as a candidate, once for state senate and once for state representative. You can see that I ran as a libertarian. It's very clear where I stand, where my principles lie, and what I stand for. Please do not make the mistake of thinking that someone who has no history and that you know nothing about, who suddenly has windfall money and wild endorsement, is going to represent you. That is someone who has the backing of other people that don't represent you. Thank you.
Mr. Herster.
Had to see if I could get the green light on here. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for year after year putting on events like this. It's so important. I want to thank all the smiling faces out there. This is the biggest crowd we've drawn, and I really appreciate your involvement in getting involved in this election. My name is Chris Herster. My campaign is Christopher for ATX. I am the better late than never candidate. I got in at the last day and the last hours because I wanted to give the people of District 3 an opportunity to elect someone that's going to represent everybody in the district. Whether you're on East 7th or you're all the way down on Stastny, I'm open to representing everybody. We need to have open doors for our councilman if we're going to get things done. And we have to have a councilman that's going to collaborate with everybody else in the city. We can't just close the walls down here in District 3. We need to attract business and people over to District 3 so we can improve our lives over here. Thank you.
Mr. Ireland.
Good evening. My name is Sean Ireland, candidate for Austin City Council District 3. We probably won't get to all the issues tonight, but if you could please go to IrelandForAustin.com, you can learn more about my campaign there. I see three issues that are directly affecting District 3 and Austin as a whole. The first of which is affordability. I am the candidate that will audit Austin Energy, find and eliminate wasteful spending and pass the savings on to you, which may mean up to $100 million back in the pockets of ratepayers. I'm the only candidate, not only in this race, but citywide, who has made this pledge to you. Infrastructure. I am the infrastructure candidate in this race. Every one of you who's going to go home tonight, and any water you get out of your tap or your shower got to your house through pre-World War II cast iron pipes that leak 4 billion gallons of water every single year. I am advocating for the total replacement of these old infrastructures with modern technology and public safety. This is the third. We have a staffing crisis at 911. We need to hire more people so where they can get to your house on time. Thank you.
Mr. Cantu.
I want to say thank you for League of Women Voters for being here tonight and presenting this. This is very good. You always do a really good job. My name is Mario Cantu, and I'm running for District 3. I've been a paramedic for over 25 years, and I've been heavily involved in my community as a vice president. I also went off to Austin Neighborhoods Council as a Sector 9 rep, and that's where I was exposed to a lot of things that are going on with City Hall. And I said to myself that if I let this go and I don't step up to the plate based on what I know and what I see, that if things don't go the right way, I'm going to be the only one to blame. So that's why I'm here tonight in front of each and every one of you and looking for your vote as your city council member. Thank you.
Mr. Quintero.
Good evening. My name is Jose Quintero. I'm with the Greater East Austin Neighborhood Association. My candidacy is applying to the city government, and that's for transparency and accountability. I'm opposing the comprehensive plans. I'm opposing the smart growth, and that's what happened to our neighborhoods. That's the change that we didn't want as a people. The city's mediators were the ones that were addressing these neighborhood plans. And so what happened, they raised our taxes. It's a displacement, but it's a displacement used by HUD monies. And we're looking forward to expose the city government so we, the people, can take back the city. I'm asking for your support, and I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Mr. McGee.
I am so happy to see all of you here tonight. Thank you for being here. To the ASL speaker in the audience, I want you to know I see you. And as the founding president of the Montopolis Neighborhood Association and the author of this book, Austin's Montopolis Neighborhood, I bid you a warm welcome to this historic building on this wonderfully auspicious occasion. I came to Austin first in 1993 while serving in the United States Navy, and moved here permanently in 1995 to get a PhD at the University of Texas. I eventually earned that PhD and became one of the first African Americans to get a PhD in archaeology. During my military career, I was one of the first African Americans to become a United States Navy diver. But that's not the totality of my resume. Visit my webpage at fredmcgee.com where you can learn more about the things that I have done and that I will do for you on the Austin City Council. Thank you again.
Mr. Valera.
Good evening. My name is Jose Valera. Many of you probably know my mother, Diane Vasquez, who had a restaurant right across the street, or maybe my grandfather, Moses Vasquez, or my great-grandfather, Tony Villasani. Like you and like my family, I'm extremely excited about this opportunity to elect our own representative, a representative who has lived the history of District 3, respects our new residents, and is ready to serve on City Council. We know Central East Austin has already changed. Montopolis is changing, and in the Southwest, change is coming. We need leadership to meet that change. My education in leadership began at West Point, and I applied those lessons in Iraq in 2003. 2009, I earned a law degree at UT. I then went on to continue the family tradition, and in 2012, opened another tamale house. My name is Jose Valera. I'm number 8 on the ballot. I can be a strong representative for District 3 on City Council. Thank you.
Mr. Rangel.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you all for making it out tonight. I know there was another debate, not as high profile as this one, but still another debate out that you missed. So I would say thank you all for coming out tonight. I want to talk about what this race is really about. And what it's about is how does electing me affect you? And once you elect me to be your voice at City Hall, your work isn't done. It's just begun. Because once elected, I will need to appoint qualified men and women to sit on boards and commissions. That's where you all come in. You're part of the process. No longer will your street be neglected. No longer will your neighborhood or your community feel disenfranchised. No longer will you be disconnected, because now you are part of the process. I welcome any discussion we have. Because of time, we're not going to be elaborating on a lot of answers, so I'll be outside. But again, ask me anything, and I've been open book. You may not like my position, but you'll at least know where I stand. Thank you.
Ms. Almanza. I'm sorry, Almanza.
Good evening. My name is Susana Almanza. I'm deeply rooted in the community. I have supported the construction of numerous affordable housing units. I have, along with others, taken on harmful and transnational facilities that were harming the community and the environment, such as the toxic tank farm, the BF5 mini landfill in the Gardens neighborhood, and the Holly power plant. I have brought numerous of transportation's improvement, such as bus shelter, benches, sidewalks, and traffic signals, and have challenged Capital Metro bus fare increases. I have created jobs for youth and college students with the Poder Young Scholars for Justice leadership program, and supported small business creation. I ask that I have also served in the City of Austin's Planning Commission, the Community Development Commission, the Environmental and Parks Board. I have been serving District 3. I didn't just arrive, I've been serving it. I ask you to elect the first Mexican-American woman with knowledge and experience and love for community for District 3. Thank you. Gracias.
Mr. Renteria.
I'd like to thank the organizers of this forum and all the people who are participating in this historic election. My name is Sabino Pio Renteria. I lived in East Austin my whole life, and I have the best voting record of any candidate in this race. I know I'm the best candidate to represent the people who live, work, and play in District 3. I'm running a grassroots campaign to prove that a low-income, working-class dad can win the support of people who are a lot like me. Single-member district is supposed to stop big money from selecting our council members, so please don't play the old game of TV and radio ads with slick campaign mailers. I'm looking forward to knocking on your door and earning your support. I've served on all kinds of boards, commissions, community groups, so I know how this city works. I got the customer service, people skills to bring together the diverse interests of resident, business, civic, and nonprofit groups and our schools and churches to find common ground and unite our voice to bring equity to District 3. I'm like you, together we can win. Please vote for me. Pio Renteria, thank you.
Mr. Limon Fernandez.
My name is Julian Limon Fernandez. Okay. Can we start over, please?
Yes, please.
Sabotage.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. My name is Julian Limon Fernandez. My wife, my son, and I, we are lifelong residents of the Gold Valley neighborhood. I am running for this historic election to represent my neighbors in District 3, both new and old, including the small businesses in South Austin, Montopolis, and East Austin. Together we can work to make our neighborhoods safe, make them bike-friendly communities with thriving mom-and-pop businesses. I have done community outreach for State Representative Gonzalo Barrientos, as well as for services for the elderly, where I was a program coordinator. I work for Adult Protective Services with abused, neglected, and exploited seniors. And I also work for the city clerk's office. And of course, I have my band, Los Texas Wranglers. I want to use my organizing and people skills to bring District 3 together, to work on solutions in preserving our quality of life as we navigate through our changing District 3.
Now we'll start our questions, and we'll begin with Mr. Phillips. How do you perceive the impact of a possible move of the Austin Police Department headquarters into District 3?
I think that's a good gesture. I don't feel that that is really going to do a whole lot of difference. My concerns more are in terms of accountability, that they are focusing more on property crimes and violent crimes and less on crimes that, or Uber stings and jaywalking stings. If the center is here or the center is there, that doesn't matter. What matters is where are the police, what are they doing, and what are they really enforcing. Thank you.
Mr. Herster?
Sorry, I'm a little slow to answer to Mr. It doesn't really matter where we move our headquarters. We have police substations. We have one over here on Springdale. Lightning. I don't think it matters where our police headquarters are. I mean, you look at downtown, we have a lot of crime down there where it is right now. And doesn't really make a lot of difference. I think the good thing about it is hopefully it saves us some money. That land is pretty valuable down there, and perhaps, you know, if we can turn that property into something else, then we can benefit off of that and save the city a lot of money. Thanks.
Mr. Ireland?
I support the move to of their new headquarters. I would also like to say that the last time a new firehouse was built in downtown Austin was in 1938. That's 3 years before the attack on Pearl Harbor. There's been obviously significant growth in downtown, and the downtown does not have the emergency resources they need to properly protect the visitors and residents of downtown. And if there is a major catastrophe in downtown, they will take resources out of our district to go and combat a fire or some sort of major disaster in downtown. So one of the things that I would like to see done is that, first of all, the police department currently are in an old library. They are not currently stationed in an actual police station. And I think that to combat the needs for Austin, for public safety, they should have a modern headquarters. But we also need to make sure that resources that District 3 needs aren't being siphoned away due to mismanagement.
Mr. Cantu?
I spoke to APD about this about 4 months ago, and I came up with this really good, innovative idea as I was speaking to him. What I would like to see is we have district reps, and I'm sure most individuals are familiar with district reps. It's usually a individual or a group of individuals that are dedicated to the lines of the neighborhoods. What I would like to see is those individuals dedicated to the district full-time, 8 to 5, patrolling, talking with each and every neighbor with issues and concerns. I would like to see that type of action taking place because I know that that's going to be able to work and function in a good manner. But also, remember, we have districts and we also have district reps, and I like to see that in all of Austin. Thank you.
Mr. Quintero?
I'd like to propose maybe a temporary lease. And basically, I would see a renovation of the downtown police department. And then after a year, see if that's effective enough that maybe we can invest before we spend a whole lot of more money on it. So that's my proposal.
Mr. McGee?
I don't have strong feelings about this issue. I know a new building has been on the wish list for the police department for a long time. Bond committee made recommendations about it. We're going to have a new 10-1 council. Generally speaking, when it comes to policing, I'm a fan and a strong advocate of community policing, which is primarily about what the community and the police can do together. I want to develop a community policing strategy that works within the context of 10-1, which means a greater degree of decentralization of police operations than perhaps exists now. But this is something that the 10-1 Council would take up. I have no objection in principle to the idea of a new headquarters in District 3, but I think it's premature to take any firm position given so many things are still up in the air, especially the implications for taxpayers.
Mr. Valera?
I would oppose a move of the police headquarters into District 3. Land is already a precious, precious resource, and the lack of land is creating an affordable housing problem for us. So I don't see moving the police headquarters into District 3 when it's already almost in District 3 as a possible solution or as a quality solution. I think there's more cost-effective ways to improve the police headquarters, and I also think that we should have a greater focus on having community policing rather than moving the entire headquarters into District 3. Thank you.
Mr. Renhel?
Yes. Wherever you live throughout District 3, your perception of APD changes dramatically, and that's kind of unfortunate. You know, if you live in this area, you have a very negative light of APD. If you live like in the Galiendo, Battle Bend area, you have a very favorable position of APD. And I think a lot of that has to do with APD not necessarily being in the neighborhood as much as we like. Like many of them, I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea of the headquarters being in District 3. I just don't think a new one is possible. We got too many things to worry about than a new headquarters for APD. There's too many things that we have to worry about, and I think we can put that on the back burner, not worried about it now and worried about it down in the future. But I agree with what Fred says. I think neighborhood policing is the way to go. That's the way we can get crime out. That's the way we can work with the community and work with APD to better the community, and that's what I would like to do. Thank you.
Ms. Almanza?
Yes, we already have a large substation on Springdale, and really, that's bigger almost than the police station. So I can't see having another police station in District 3 when we already have one. I agree that we can have community policing. That's the way to go. I think there needs to be interagency communication. I recently worked with the group, the constable, the sheriff, and the police, and the school, at looking at barriers to the immigrant community, because we have the second largest immigrant community in District 3. And how does the police begin to work with the immigration community to make sure to break down the barriers and so forth? I think those are important things that we need to be looking at, and not looking at adding additional charges to the taxpayers, increasing our taxes when we already have sufficient other buildings and we have substations throughout the city. Thank you.
Mr. Renteria?
Yes, I really don't believe that we need a new police station in East Austin. As someone who has worked with and supported the community policing ever since Chief Watson 15 years ago, I'm a big supporter of the APD. But vacant land is just, I mean, we need affordable housing. And I've worked with the city council, and the land that they have recognized to build this new police station is not compatible to our neighborhood plan. And I would support just leaving it downtown.
Mr. Limon Fernandez?
Thank you. I'm in total support of relocating the police station, but also what I would like to see is, since we're now starting a new era in 10 districts, we should have 10 police substations to handle the nonviolent arrest, where you can go take somebody out of jail and don't have to travel through town or to the county jail to take somebody out of jail. And those are the nonviolent ones. Okay, so I do believe that having that accessibility to the communities and to the people that live in those communities, that would be a better service for each and every one of the districts that we live in. Thank you.
Mr. Trujillo's Bonilla?
Thank you. I did a research. I'm a scientist from profession, philosopher, because I got a graduate studies in philosophy. I spent the last 10 years, 10,000 hours writing these 6 books, and I found that this last one, triads, means that everything is made up of 3. We are body, mind, and spirit. That's 3. Family is body, family is mom, dad, and child. And the city is a triad made up of neighborhoods, education, and people, which means that if you do not address the 3 things at the same time, you're going to have a broken city, and that's what we have right now. So I think it's a distraction to ask if it matters where the police department goes. Rather, we should be asking, what is the relationship between security, between life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? I think education is the cause of why we have insecurity, and the way to diminish insecurity is by improving education.
It's not just me can't get the green light, see?
No. Mr. Herster, the second question will start with you. What are your opinions of the draft master plan for parkland and parks in District 3?
Austin is well known for its parks. When I was growing up here, I'm a native Austinite. It used to be called Parks and Recreation Department. And of course now I think it's just Parks Department. We've forgotten the recreation. So I think we need to think about including a lot more recreation opportunities within our parks. I know there's a big contention with Festival Beach and that area over there. I think we need to listen to the neighborhoods. neighborhood associations are the key to any city. This is where people live. The people are the soul of the city. Not a park, not a piece of water, but it's the people. And if the people, they want to keep a park maintained with this historical context, then we need to look in doing that. There was an article just now yesterday about, I know a lot of people don't play golf, but it was over there at the Pitch and Putt Butler. Now they're going to put it up for bid. So it's just another treasure we're losing here in Austin.
I would like to say that, sorry, how are you?
That's okay.
Go.
Let me,
Oh,
Mr.
sorry.
Ireland.
Thank you. I would like to say that my main focus when it comes to parks is to make sure that they have the resources they need to stay open and clean and accessible. If there is an issue with the city park, the first thing that I'm going to go do is I'm going to go to that neighborhood and ask them on the ground, like, what do you think of this issue? Should we, what do you believe that I should do as your city councilman? What stance should I take? I think that we need to look at our parks the way we would treat our own home. I think that we are going to have this, it's not just going to be city limits or South by Southwest or the Kite Festival. We're going to have like one major event in this city every single week coming up pretty soon. So I would like to have the attitude on city council that parks are for families as well. And we need to make sure that families can go to a park or any other type of public venue without worrying about being shooed away by some sort of a festival or something like that.
Mr. Cantu.
Our parks are very precious to us. As a native born here in Austin, Texas, I know it's of very good and high value to keep our natural resources here in Austin, parks, Barton Springs, the putt-putt golf, all those little things that we have here in Austin that are very dear to us. One, we need to keep them. Number two, when it comes to parks, I grew up a little bit in the east side. I know all about Chicano Park back in the day. Things have changed, and there's a big change going on. The way I see the change now, back when I was really small, back in Chicano Park, it's nothing like it is now. So it's evolved, and we have to acknowledge that. But to get to the answer is there needs to be a working with each and every person within those neighborhoods and making sure that everybody's communicating and that the wishes of each and every individual are met at a table together. Thank you.
Mr. Quintero.
Thank you. There's a warning out there for East Austin residents about our parks. And the reason I'm saying that, I was involved with the Greater East Austin Youth League, and the fear that I have regarding the master plan, though they have some of the ideas, the city of Austin, and they're already planning this. And these are called master plans. It's not for the citizens, it's what the city wants to do. So therefore, we have plenty of parks in East Austin. We got Metz, Palm, we have Comal, we have Gold Valley. All these parks have been the growth entertainment for our residents. But the city has never attempted to do the things that need to be attractive for us to keep using them. So therefore, as a candidate, with other candidates in the city council, I would suggest that we improve our parks as it is now.
Mr. McGee.
My impression of this plan is mixed, like a lot of things with the city. There's some things that are good, some things that are bad. Roy Guerrero Park, my son learned to ride his bike there. It's a family-friendly park. The playscape there is one of the best in the city. I have some complaints about the way some of that was done, but overall, good job. So I wanted to start off with some good things. Now let me, because you can't solve the world's problems in 60 seconds, let me give you a couple of things that I think could stand some improvement and that are challenges. One of them is the parks bond and the management of that bond pertaining to this building right here in our new recreation center. The Parks and Recreation Department needs to partner with the community and do it the right way, disclose all information, and admit that there are some people, including myself, who know more about this place than they do. Number two, Holly Shores. The same thing applies. That is a brownfield next to the Holly Power Plant. They needed to admit that, remediate it properly, and work on that and partner with the community. And lastly, stop the encroachment by Health and Human Services into parks operations. Thank you.
Mr. Valera.
It's Valera. When it comes to parks in East Austin, there's a very real narrative that people need to recognize, that for a long time, parks in East Austin were neglected. And there's recently, due to maybe changing demographics, changing times, there's been a renewed interest in East Austin. We need to accept that that narrative is real, and then we need to move forward. And we need to make sure that the current master plans include community input and actually serve the community. And I think if we look at that narrative, we know that it's true. We know that there's been things that have happened with respect to funds that were dedicated for home repairs that were used for the master plan. We can accept that, and now let's move beyond it and make sure that we have detailed reviews of the new master plans. We have careful examination of the impacts of those master plans. We get community input, and then we push back and make sure that the parks serve the community. Thank you.
Mr. Rangel.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. When it comes to parks, I'm actually a little bit biased. After my dad was the first Hispanic city councilman of Lockhart, he retired as the park and recreational manager in Lockhart. And I can only assume that the same struggles that he faced in Lockhart are the same struggles that the people at the Parks and Rec Department face here. You know, lack of funding and follow through when it comes to the plan. So that's what I plan to hope to work with when I get elected as city council, to ensure that funding goes directly to parks and we have enough funding for parks because everyone uses them and we want more of them. And secondly, when we have plans, that we follow through with them, that we don't back away from what we've started out, and we don't back away from the ideologies that we set forth in the beginning. So that's what I plan to do, find funding and follow through with the plans. Thank you.
Ms. Almanza.
Yes, as a current and past Parks Board member, I'm very concerned about what's becoming of our parks. There is a big push to commercialize our parks, which will let a lot of the families not have access to the parks. There's also a big push to bring alcohol to the parks, which is very concerning for me. I think people need to look at the special events ordinance that's going through the city. That ordinance is deciding which parks will allow alcohol and which ones will not, without looking at the proximity of parks to schools and the proximities to residential areas. This is a very important thing to do. I worked and helped develop the Roy Guerrero Colorado River Park plan back in the late 90s. It's a 366-acre jewel. It's a jewel. And we have worked all this time to make sure that we keep it that way, because I can tell you, many people wanted to commercialize it. Thank you.
As someone who's worked on, as someone who has worked with past city council like Raul Alvarez in establishing the Tejano Trail, I really support improving our parks. The problem that we're having right now is the user fees. It's so expensive with the high rent, the taxes. Our kids and our family cannot enjoy the high fees that are being charged to our family to use our parks and our recreation facility. We need to really just establish a policy where we can establish a family pass where it's based on a sliding scale. Now, if it's not legal, then I'm going to be lobbying the state to make that legal, because our family needs support, and we're being left out of using our parks and rec centers. Thank you.
Mr. Limon Fernandez.
Thank you. Thank you. Parks are supposed to be used as parks, not for any other use, none. Do not take up any parkland for farming or gardening projects. Farming are for farmers, okay? No concerts that permit beer for sale at Pan American Hillside or Zaragoza Park. This is unacceptable to the neighbors, to the community, or to District 3. Thank you.
Mr. Trujillo Bonilla.
Thank you. Yes, parks should be combined as cultural centers. I think that the idea of parks, I'm all for parks, but the problem here is going to be with what use to make of the public lands. Are we going to turn them into housing, or are we going to turn them into parks? I think that turning them into housing is a very bad idea. I think that the public lands that are still out there should be turned into parks. And there are heathers, there are regular parks, there are trails. I think the closer we are to nature, the better. And I think we need to get away from the garden house, having our own individual park in our home, in our backyard, and start creating more high density. But you have to make up that lack of green space in our individual space by having public parks. I think we need a policy. Thank you very much.
The next question will start with Mr. Ireland.
Oh, Mr. Phillips.
Oh,
Mr. Phillips, please.
sorry, Mr. Phillips.
I agree with many of the candidates that we need to recognize that the city council in a lot of ways answers to the voters and answers to the neighborhood associations which are comprised by voters. So they need to respect that when it comes time to divvy up what you're going to do with the park, they need to get permission from those neighborhoods in the area, and the neighborhood should have a chance to say what's in it for us, what's the give and take. I also want to bring up the cost involved here when it comes to upkeeping these parks. When we have all these great festivals, you get to choose whether or not you want to attend, if you enjoy that kind of thing or not, but you don't get to choose whether or not you deal with the traffic and the congestion at the airport and many other downsides to having these festivals in our city. But the city still gets windfall tax revenues based on the city sales tax from those festivals. We need to make sure that money is going to the other parks, that money is serving us that way at the very least, if not also coming back to us in property tax costs. Thank you.
Now the next question will go to Mr. Ireland. How do you plan to address the diversity of needs in the district, particularly as it applies to the high percentage of elderly, low-income homeowners and the growing number of first-time homeowners?
I think that if you look at the utilities, that is where the affordability question is answered. Whether you're an illegal immigrant whose maybe it's not your name on the electric bill, or you're buying a $600,000 home of new construction, you are all paying for Austin Energy. We have got to, Austin Energy is a $1 billion public utility that the City Council has purview over. If it was privately held on the stock market, it'd be listed in the Fortune 500. Any Fortune 500 company can find 5 to 10% in savings, which may, in comparable to Austin Energy, may mean up to $100 million back in the pockets of ratepayers within a year of that forensic audit. We get us getting the results from that. District 3 is 17 square miles of the most diverse cross-section of Austin. And we need to find policies that will not only strengthen our communities, prepare for the growth that's going to come, but also make sure that our traditional communities are taken care of.
Mr. Cantu?
So the question is, how do we address with the elderly and low income? First of all, with the elderly, what we got to make sure, number one, is that everyone that is 65 and older that can get a homestead exemption is receiving a homestead exemption. How do we not know right now that every single person in just District 3 is receiving one? We don't know that. We need to find that out, and we need to make sure that they are receiving that. Number two, when it comes to low income, we got to make sure that we mandate weatherization. Weatherization is a big part of energy, and some of these rental properties and home structures that are being rented, which is about 55% of all of Austin, has rentals. That's a big number. In District 3, we know that's also a big number as well. So we have to address that we have weatherization is mandated because as their cost of bills go up, so does the cost of living. And that's the difficulty that they have is the expenditure of lost energy and air conditioning. Thank you.
Mr. Quintero?
Thank you. I have a real estate license, and it's inactive, and I've seen a lot of discrimination in our neighborhood. You speak about diversity. You have a $300,000 home next to what they used to call Mexican shacks. What's the difference? The issue here was that when they raised our taxes, my mother is an elderly citizen. She's 87 years old. She'd applied for a grant for her to fix her house. They said, we'll lend you $30,000. House Bill 990 was passed, the Austin Preservation District, East Austin Preservation District, and that part of the bill says, we'll help you with the taxes, but you have to sign the property over to us. That's your city government right now. So what's diversity here? What does that mean to our elderly? Thank you.
Mr. McGee?
I know this issue like nobody up here. I am the only African American credentialed in rainwater harvesting. I'm the only African American energy auditor in Austin. I'm the only weatherization expert. I have built, retrofitted, and preserved affordable housing personally. I am a green jobs employer. It is very important that you have somebody on the Austin City Council dais who has personal experience in doing these things and implementing our utilities programs. On the policy side, I probably have the most bold proposal, and that is a feed-in tariff modeled on Germany. I am from Germany. I'm an immigrant from there. I have family members who are solar installers there. I know how this works, again, from personal experience. One of the reasons San Antonio has overtaken Austin in energy is because they have a feed-in tariff. We need to be looking to places like Germany and San Antonio for getting measurable reductions in our utility bills.
Mr. Valera?
This is a great question, and the first two phone calls our campaign received were from a Mrs. Corona who lives at Chalmers Courts and a Mrs. LeBeau who's the head of the community center at RBJ. And they asked me this very same question. And so I'll tell you what I told them, is that we must do everything we can to preserve our truly affordable housing stock, whether it's Chalmers Court, RBJ. Those have to be treated like precious natural resources. Now, as we move into the future, we also need to make sure that our new construction has affordable housing units that are conducive to assisted living, conducive to the elderly. And I think that this new construction, if done responsibly and with the input of the neighborhood, can also help those new home buyers, those new residents to find affordable housing. Thank you.
Mr. Runhelm?
Yes. I plan to address affordability like I've always addressed affordability, whether it's ideology or whether it's action. I think the auditing of Austin Energy is a great thing. There's a lot we can do with that. I think also we need to look at is working with legislation so that we can get the seeking correction of the underinvestment of commercial properties. I think that's going to help out a lot. When it comes to affordable housing, I'm for private-public partnerships, lessen the taxes on the taxpayers. I'm for using public land so we can spread affordable housing throughout the city. And I want to work with the rewrite of the Land Development Code so we can make the process less strenuous. When it comes to action, I have voted for the affordable housing bond in 2012 and also in 2013. I ask all you out there tonight to ask all the candidates how they voted for that bond and those bonds. And that you'll get a true representation of who you are elected. See, I just don't do it by ideology, I do it by action. And that's what I plan to do when I get on council. Thank you.
Ms. Almanza?
As a native of East Austin, I currently live in an affordable house, and it means a lot to be able to raise your family and be able to pay your mortgage. One of the things that I would work on is to make sure that the city-owned lands, the property, the public houses, that they be set aside, some for the elderly, those who are handicapped or challenged. Also look for low income and middle income. That is land that's already owned by the city that can be appropriated by the nonprofits that are currently building homes. That's very important. The other thing I would do is I would work for establishing a living wage of $15 an hour. That's very important, and that would take thousands of people out of poverty so that they don't have to work 2 or 3 jobs. The other thing is that I would make sure that we need to work to lower the utility bills. That is another thing that is hurting the low income, those that are working on a set income. Thank you.
Mr. Renteria?
Yes. In District 3, my priority one is to get the council to seat the TIF board for the Homestead Preservation Act so we can have the maximum recaptured funds before the 11 acres Saltillo tract and the RBJ Rebecca Bain Johnson 18 tract gets built out. And whether elected or to the council or not, I'm going to be the bulldog to make the 11 acre Saltillo Metro land being developed by Endeavor and the 18 acres Rebecca Bain Senior Residential Tract to not only double the numbers of affordable rental units, but to require mixed income in the 3 new market rate buildings and the 4 blocks of the new townhomes that are being built on this tract. I'd like to explore the possibility of expanding the Homestead Preservation Act boundaries to include at least the southern portion of District 3, if not adopted in citywide. Thank you.
Mr. Limon Fernandez?
Okay, as to the question of the needs and diversity, my answer is Pastor Perez, Elisa Rendon, Kathy Vasquez, Peggy Vasquez, Mr. Rosales, Father Jamie, Mrs. Ramirez, and Mr. Butler. I will be asking them for their help to show me what are the needs of the community, because these people are the pillars of this community. These people are the pillars of District 3, and I will need their help and their input, and I will go to them to fix these problems. The needs and the diversity, that's what these folks are all about. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Trujillos Bonilla?
Thank you. Thank you. I think more than diversity, we need to be creative. We have lost faith in ourselves. We think that we cannot create anything because we don't create. I say that we do create. We do not create out of nothing, like our creator in turn, obviously, but we create out of things that are already out there. Like out there right now, there's the private sector and the public sector. I say that we create a universal sector. What am I talking about? I'm saying that the government is way too big, and we need to downsize it. We need to cut down on taxes. And Austin Energy, Austin Water, and recycling, that's what's making the government very morbidly obese. We need to take those 3 utilities and create a new sector to work at the same time as the private sector, the public sector, and the universal sector. We need to put in a triad in place. If we have a triad, there is order. Where there is missing, there's chaos. Thank you.
Mr. Phillips?
Would you mind repeating the question for me again?
How do you plan to address the diversity of needs in the district, particularly as it applies to the high percentage of elderly, low-income homeowners and the growing number of first-time homeowners?
That question to me says it's all about affordability and gentrification. The driving force behind gentrification is the cost of living, primarily your property taxes. I believe that the homestead exemption is a fantastic start, but I would go even further than that with an effective tax rate. It's a bit of a complicated system. I'll have that on my website tonight if you want any further explanation on that. Website's votekentphillips.com. Going beyond that, I feel that we cannot rightfully tell someone that they cannot move here, to try and limit the ability of people that want to come here and invest in their area, buy a new home, be a first home buyer. It's not our place to tell them that they can't, to put barriers between them, but only to support those who need affordability by cutting their taxes across the board and helping them live in their home and not get forced out. Thank you.
I've actually had to address this problem I was a former housing specialist with Caritas of Austin. I was charged with finding houses for people that had an average income of $800 a month. A lot of senior citizens, that's their Social Security. And let me tell you, it's a hard job here in Austin, especially now in District 3. Our current leadership in Austin for the past decade has allowed developers to come in and buy the affordable housing up along Riverside, slap a coat of paint on, double the rent, driving a lot of people out of Austin into Del Valley and Manor. I'm going to say something people aren't really happy with, but I'm opposed to the homestead exemption. I want to take that $36 million and turn it back into Austin Energy and reduce the amount of draw that the city takes from Austin Energy, because we don't need to be drawing so much money. We need to reduce what we spend. And the city should not be spending as much as $3.5 billion on a budget when we're not even the biggest city in Texas.
Mr. Cantu, we'll start with you, please. The question is, what is your position on the integration of urban farms and similarly evolving land uses in the district?
The question was urban farms, correct?
Yes.
So for urban farms, I'm for urban farms. I'm also for individuals and neighbors working together, coming out to an even medium and being able to understand exactly what's going on. You know, when we have fruits and vegetables that are very accessible to neighbors and individuals and that can be implemented into restaurants in different areas within District 3, that's a good thing. I see some very good innovative things that we can do in District 3, and we can take a mold that we can develop together as unified neighbors, residents living in District 3 to come together and come up with this really nice, beautiful mold that we can give it to other districts to do the same. And then once we do that in all of Austin, we can take it and move outside of Austin. We have some things that we can really work together with doing, and I support the urban farms. Thank you.
Mr. Quintero.
Thank you. Yo soy del rancho, okay? I'm against urban farms in the city, especially Austin, because it's so compact. It's one of the only cities in America you got a stretch of 15 and a 10-mile radius. And so it's getting real crowded. And the reason I'm saying that is, you know, I understand the educational part of food and nutrition, but I also understand that our farmlands are more important for the foods for our people. And the biggest issue here is a global issue regarding Monsanto. Who controls the farms? Are we going to educate our kids at these urban farms, say, you know what, you can farm here and get nutritional food, but if you go to Rancho, they got Monsanto seeds over there that are destroying our population. That's the issue in this nation, and the government is supporting that. Thank you.
Mr. McGee.
Were you all aware that there's a Monsanto street right down the street from here? Some of you probably know that. This is a formerly a very rural area. This area used to be all agricultural, but I don't want to give you guys a history lesson. I want to answer the question, and the answer for me is that I'm a strong supporter of urban farms and urban farming. I see opportunities for all kinds of collaboration here between the urban farms in terms of doing things in District 3 about our food deserts, placing gardens and other sorts of education at affordable housing locations, including our public housing at Santa Rita and at Chalmers. And I especially see opportunities for symbiosis in terms of brownfields remediation. Just some policy ideas I have. Now, in terms of do I not just talk the talk, do I walk the walk? Yes, I do. I grow my own food, chickens, the whole yard, all of it. My wife works for the Capital Area Food Bank, has for years. She was on the board of the Sustainable Food Center, so we get the food thing.
Mr. Valera.
I support the urban farms. Many of them have been in East Austin for 20, 25 years, but I think that they also have a responsibility to provide a service to the community. I think that they should provide educational opportunities for kids. I think that they should provide affordable fruits and vegetables for the neighborhood. And I think that they must be responsive to the neighborhood as well. But I also think that those individuals are trying to meet those goals. The other part of the question was with respect to land use. I think we need to make sure that the land use, zoning, the designations for any land is appropriate for the neighborhood. And I also think with respect to urban farms that we're losing our eye on the ball with this. They have become a focal point for gentrification attacks, and meanwhile, people have been losing their homes down the street, down the next street. So let's refocus on those people that are losing their homes.
Mr. Runhill.
Yes, this is actually part of the problem. We have 12 candidates. You feel like a broken record and just agreeing with everybody. I couldn't agree more both with Mr. McGee and Valletta as well. I think I'm a strong supporter of the urban farms. I don't see what's the problem with it. If you want to grow vegetables in your yard, grow vegetables in your yard. I think the problem is the decomposition of animals, and that's where we can work with the neighborhoods to make sure that this is being corrected. And that's why I'm really a big proponent of the Rewrite the Land Development Code. This is what we can do when it comes to that, to make sure that zoning is corrected and make sure that the communities work together. Especially this being a large Hispanic district and diabetes very prevalent through the Hispanic community. This is an opportunity for us to really educate the young and really sort of go into that, early childhood development and education and nurturing and that sort of thing, so that we won't have to face those problems down the line. So I'm a big proponent of it, and I think just needs more collaboration and understanding from both sides. Thank you.
Ms. Almanza.
Yes, I support urban farms. I'm currently on the Farmland Preservation Committee, and I have to clear this up. When we took on the Hosbar Farm, it was a zoning issue. It was not an urban farm issue. The urban farmers made it an issue. It's because Hosbar Farm was slaughtering from 25 to 50 chickens a week and burying the party parts on the land. And the community was taking in orders. You cannot do commercial use of a land, and they were on single-family land. That was a zoning issue that has been taken out of proportion, and I'm glad I'm having the opportunity to correct this so that the Chronicle will get it right, so that the council members, the ones who challenged me here, would also get it right, that I do not oppose urban farmers. My family and everyone on 10th Street and Calle 10, we were urban farmers. We had chickens and rabbits, and we grew our own vegetables. It's not new. It's not a hip thing. We've done it to survive. It's part of our indigenous culture. Thank you.
Mr. Renteria.
Yes, I'm a big supporter of urban farm. When we were in East Austin, when we faced the closure of Jardín Alegre there on 2nd Street, we took action. I was able to convince the city to lease us some parkland that wasn't used on the corner of Haskell and Nash Hernandez Boulevard in East Austin. And we have about 3 acres of land there, and it's just fantastic the way that we've been able to work with the community there. We have helped the seniors there to grow their own vegetables, and because of having that garden there, we also have been able to bring in school kids to learn about gardening and the benefit of food. I mean, it's just a no-brainer about but supporting urban farms. Thank you.
Mr. Limon Fernandez.
Well, as all of you may know, that I am a big urban farm supporter. They bring a positive impact to District 3. They're a big social network, okay? They're very good for the environment. If you live next to an urban farm, you don't have any mosquito problems, period. East Austin urban farmers, we need to ease up on them and stop picking on them and threatening them. Stop trashing their areas. We have people that actually have gone and threatened these people's lives. You can't do that to your neighbor. Those areas have been vacant for many years. Once these urban farmers took place there, now it becomes an issue because of gentrification. These people were there before gentrification started. Folks, I'll tell you what, on my 30th anniversary, I want to have my anniversary party at Springdale Farm.
Mr. Trujillo Bonilla.
Thank you. Yes, I am obviously in favor of urban farming. It's hard to be against something so beautiful. I mean, but the question is, how are we going to integrate it? Because a city, as I said, is a triad made up of neighborhoods, education, and people. If you do not integrate urban farming with education, if you do not give kids hands-on learning, if kids do not learn the 4 elements of fire, air, water, and earth, and be friendly with the earth, then it's just a misuse of a concept. I think green is good, but it's part of a triad, that we are triads, and we have to integrate it with education. Thank you.
Mr. Phillips.
I believe that if you're wanting to farm on your property, whether or not you own it individually or if you own it communally, you have every right to do so, so long as you're not involving someone else's property. There's no place for anyone to step in and stop you. I want to go further to say that I love the idea of people managing their own food, taking that responsibility, eating healthier, eating more natural food, and I want to encourage anyone to do that. You're my kind of people, I must say. I'll even take us yet another step further and to say we should look into rain collection abilities so that we can provide better water systems for people who want to go down this route. I would encourage research and discovery into these methods to help urban farmers. That way, if there's any complaint that someone could have, is they could say, well, they're wasting our water, but we could nix that as soon as it came out. And I'd much rather see someone watering a farm for food and subsistence than the grass yard.
Mr. Herster.
Well, how can you not support somebody that can actually grow something, not like me? I kill everything I plant. That being said, I think what we need to focus more on is the land use changes that are coming. You know, this city redrew its land use codes back in 30 years ago, and a lot of people said they just sat on the shelf. Our council, our commission, our boards have been allowed to come in and make changes and changes and changes to these land use codes. So I have to question whether we're doing anything that's any good, whether a new council is going to come in and make changes no matter what the neighborhoods want. I'd actually like to see the council slow down on what we're doing with Project Connect and our land use codes and our rewrite with Imagine Austin until we get a 10-1 council seated. Because the 10-1 council it's an opportunity that most governments never get, most cities never get. You get to reset your government, and you get to have representation that lives relatively close to you, at least on your side of town, and we need to work on that.
Mr. Ireland.
I absolutely support urban farms. The ability to feed yourself is an absolute human right. To learn more, please go to IrelandForAustin.com. But I need to address something that was told to you earlier. My opponent keeps promising people $15 an hour minimum wage if she wins. The Texas state law forbids cities from raising the minimum wage. She knows that. My opponent's built a base of the undocumented, the unemployed, the underemployed, and the minimum wage worker. And how? By
Mr. Ireland,
there's a fraud going on.
We ask that you
this is not a
talk
personal
about
attack.
your
This is a
opponent.
policy, ma'am. This is about policy.
That's a personal attack.
It is Texas state law.
Run on your
forbids
own
minimum
merits.
wage work. This is wrong. Exploiting District 3's most vulnerable for votes is wrong, and it's unethical. And how do you let this go on, ma'am? No, it is not. She has not buried my sign. You must not be allowed to be lied to. By the way, I will always protect you from ruthless charlatans and grifters. This may be the last time the League of Women Voters.
The next question will start with Mr. Quintero. Given that District 3 has the lowest rate of voter engagement in the city of Austin. What is your plan for engaging the community and receiving the input necessary to represent district citizens?
In this time of juncture, this is a 10-1 council, so it's very historical. And I believe that there's going to be a lot more confusion about the voting districts because most people have not been educated toward this. So in essence, I'm waiting for the city of Austin to maybe run some ads to educate the people on TV, because this has only been a gentleman's agreement. Remember, now we're independent, and I thank God for that. And so I think as a organization of yourselves, you should suggest to the city that they should put advertising about these districts so we know who's going to vote for who. Thank you.
Mr. McGee.
In order to represent the people, you need to be one of the people. This district has the second highest percentage of immigrants after District 4. 25% of our district is comprised of non-citizens who cannot vote in the November 4 election. Guess what? I am an immigrant to this country myself. I know what it means to come here, to learn the language, and have to assimilate. I'm probably the only guy up here, other than Ricardo over there, who has more than one passport. I have personal experience with ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. I know what it means to face deportation from this country. You don't have to ask me whether I get it. I get why voter turnout here is low. In terms of my own personal family, my own family is like a personal United Nations. I'm of European, African, and Native American descent. My younger sister is Puerto Rican. My nephew is South Asian. I have a PhD in anthropology and haven't just traveled, but have lived and worked abroad. Believe me, I get it. Can I keep on talking?
No. Mr. Valera? Yeah. No. Yeah.
So I think with this election in particular, as historic as it is, there is a real information deficit with the community. And we need to have both a high-tech and a low-tech way to inform the voters on exactly what's going on. We need to tell them each and every race, mayor, district, governor's race, we need to explain to them all the different bond elections. We actually need to send out flyers and mailers that just tell people, you live in District 3. It's been very difficult for individual voters to find this information without a computer, without a cell phone, without any kind of high-tech devices. So what we really need to do, the city really needs to do, is have a grassroots informational campaign and get that information out to the citizens. Let them know what the election is. Let them know how the district system works. Thank you.
Mr. Runhell?
Yes, in my opening statement, I actually kind of addressed this. Once elected, I'm going to need to appoint qualified men and women to sit on boards of commission. And that's what I plan to do. I think that starts the engagement. You're tired of the Parks Department and want to get more involved. Apply to be on the Parks Commission. You want to figure out what's zoning, what's going on, apply to become on a zoning commission. This is a way we start engaging as well. And once elected, what I really would like to do is when I go visit my aunt, it was sort of off Breaker and Lamar, they have signs in the neighborhood that says, I vote in District 7. And I kind of want to put those around the district so that, again, you know which district you're in. And it's really interesting because I don't have to ask her, hey, what district you are. I see it throughout their neighborhood. So, again, more community involvement, get representation throughout the district with more people involved with boards and commissions. I think that gets the ball rolling. And then also putting signs throughout the neighborhood that saying which district they're in. And I think that will definitely help out tremendously. Thank you.
Ms. Amanza?
Could you repeat the question first?
Sure. Given that District 3 has the lowest rate of voter engagement in the city of Austin, what is your plan for engaging the community and receiving the input necessary to represent district citizens?
Well, I have been involved with the Early Voter Mobilization Project for 5 years, and we target one of the lowest precincts and brought that precinct up to 35%. One of the other things that we have done through Poder, we actually created this brochure that we have taken to meetings and door to door, informing people of how the districts were formed, where to call, when the voting takes place, and looking at the maps. So we have done our own educational projects to educate the community, and we think that that's very important. We've also worked with the Raza Roundtable and ABLA and other organizations to look and gather names of people who are interested of serving on boards and commissions. So we've already started a lot of the preliminary work so that when I get on council, we will have those positions already ready for people who want to get going and who want to learn more about city council. Thank you very much.
Mr. Renteria?
Well, I always say, el que no habla ni Dios le oye, por si votas, todos te oyen. And what I said is, you know, those that don't speak up, not even the Lord will hear you, but if you vote, everyone will hear you. And that's why I'm running the grassroots campaign. I'm running the grassroots campaign to educate the people. I'm going door to door knocking, talking to my people. I'm not going to rely on a slick mailer that comes to your door. You know, that's not me. I'm a grassroots. I'm a precinct chair. Been a precinct chair for over 30 years. I've been active in politics for the last 50 years in my life, and I've gone and walked every door in this area, especially Montopolis. I've been to every door in Go Valley. I've been in every door at Pan Am. I've been at every door in Sancho in the South Austin.
Mr. Limon Fernandez?
Well, voting is a big thing. If you look on my website, electjulian.com, it says, no se queje, vote. Don't complain, vote. That's what it comes down to. However, on my side, and it's also apparent with a lot of the candidates that are sitting up here, we have signs out there to let people know, to advertise who we are. You put up a sign, the next day they're gone. I had 25 4x8 signs, 4 feet by 8 signs. Out of those 25, I only have 8 left. And somebody else's sign goes up right there. Right here all over Montopolis, I had signs all up and down Montopolis Drive. All of my signs have gone down, and somebody else's sign has gone up. How are we going to get people to vote when there's that kind of meanness and ugliness in people? Thank you.
Mr. Torrijos Bonilla?
Yes, it's, I think that people don't, from what I've gathered, that talking with people, they tell me, are you going to be a politician? Are you corrupt? I said, I hope not. Well, if you win, you will be corrupt. Yeah? And I think that's the general perception, that people don't want to vote because you are endorsing, you are promoting a corrupt system by voting. I think good people, many good people don't vote because of that. They think, and I think there's part truth in what they say. I think we need to separate politics, which has to do with power, economic, that has to do with money, from service. And the only way to do that is to create a sector of the economy, which is the universal sector, that has to do with service, not with power, not with making money, but with service. If we do that, then people, good people, will start participating again.
Mr. Phillips.
We have the right to assemble. That is a core human right in this country. And I don't believe that it's necessarily the right or the expectation of the city government to enforce that, to make you assemble and to organize your own voting situation. I believe that duty falls upon us as individuals. If you want to organize a group based on your connections, if you are Hispanic, Latino, and want to formulate that group to vote as a group, go right ahead. I encourage that. If you are, Fred, help me out here, African German American, and you want to gather up other African German Americans, you go right ahead and do that and vote together. I want to encourage people to vote on issues, though. Vote towards, something like 10-1, where we say, hey, this needs to be done. This is what's going to get people out. It's activism in its purest, and it's why we have a system the way we do. It's why we have the right to assemble and the right to vote.
Mr. Herster?
Well, this is one of the reasons that we moved our elections to November. And it's actually kind of a trick. Austin has a habit of 10% of people showing up to vote for city elections. And you have to wonder why this is. I wouldn't say it's corruption. I think it's lack of hope. I think people don't trust our politicians. And that's why 10-1 is such a great thing. It's a reset. We can turn over the whole government. We can put in 10, 11 new people that haven't been there before that will actually represent the people. And that's why I got into this race. I live right in the center of the district off the Burleson Road area. And, I want to represent people whether they're on Stasny or East 7th or Montopolis or wherever. I'm sure most of my colleagues will say that as they knock on doors in different neighborhoods, there's different issues. And we have to have somebody up there that's going to listen to everybody and not have their personal agendas out there and their personal ideologies. Thank you.
Mr. Ireland?
To register to vote, go to irelandforaustin.com. The last day to register to vote is October 6th, so make sure your ballot, your application is in the mail by then. Nationwide, voting rights are being restricted or rescinded. I have been a lifelong voter. Matter of fact, since moving to Austin, I have prodigiously and consistently voted in every single election for affordable housing twice, for 10-1. I am a voter like you, and it's because I care. No one should just vote every 6 years like some do. But I just want to let you know that how am I getting a message across to voters? Because I have a message of reform. So when you're eating your amigas at 1 in a million, or you're at Starbucks on Ben White, you tell the person next to you, there's a reformer in this District 3 race, and his name is Sean Ireland. He's the 4th name on the ballot, and he will always tell you the truth. When mischief is about, I will speak out.
Mr. Cantu?
Let's talk about deficiency. Well, we're going to talk real quick about that. I was deficient. I was deficient for a long time. And when I woke up, I found out what's going on. That's why I'm here today. And there's some others that are with me that worked on 10-1. We paved the path for 10-1 of where we're at today. And what's really good about 10-1, it will give you the opportunity of each and every individual to know and understand who you're voting for. You will be able to pick the layers off of each individual to find out their voting history, their ethics, their values, their family values, etc. And I ask each and every one of you to pull those layers off of each individual and find out deeply who is the person that's going to be representing you. Like Sean said, there's individuals here that are going to give you the truth. Let them do that. Thank you.
We finished the questioning. Now it's time for your 1-minute close. And I'm going to start with Mr. McGee.
Service on the Austin City Council is not an entry-level position. Unlike the other candidates here, I served on the Charter Revision Committee that produced the recommendation for a 10-1 council. I listened carefully to what people said and the arguments they put forth and have a deep understanding of both the opportunities as well as the challenges our new system of representation will bring. I firmly believe that citywide voters, not just District 3 voters, don't just want to change from politics as usual at City Hall. They also want public servants serving on the council that embody moral stature and personal integrity, that know how to collaborate to get things done, that understand the people and their concerns, and that have a track record of leadership by example. I am that candidate. When you go to vote, look for my name, Dr. Fred L. McGee, lucky number 7 on the ballot, and visit my website at fredmcgee.com. Muchas gracias. Vielen Dank. Thank you very much.
First, thank you all for coming. And then to the voters of District 3, we have to get this decision right. If we don't elect someone who is from the district, knows the district, then those people who have been waiting 85 years for this election will not have a voice on City Hall. And if we don't elect someone who sends an inclusive message to all our residents, both new and old, then those residents will not have a voice on City Hall. And if we don't elect someone who is qualified on day one to serve on Austin City Council, then the entire district will not have a voice on City Hall. My name is Jose Valera. I'm number 8 on the ballot. I am from here. I am sending that inclusive message, and I am ready to serve on Austin City Council. Thank you.
Mr. Rangel.
Thank you. Thank you for lasting this entire time. I know some didn't. I look at that guy right there, and I'm envious of him passing out. So thank you all for making it out. My name is Eric Rangel. I'm running for Austin City Council District 3. And you should vote for me for 3 reasons. 1, I'm one of only a few candidates in this race that has diverse community involvement. I bring that up because although this is a Hispanic Opportunity District, this district is very diverse. You'll need someone who can understand and navigate the many neighborhoods. 2, I am the only candidate in this race that has a degree from a college or university with an emphasis or concentration in business. I say that because we are dealing with a $3.5 billion budget. You will need someone to understand the complexities of that budget. And number 3, my ability to work with others, to understand that compromise and collaboration are not signs of weakness, but merely signs of strengths. And because of all that, I believe I'm the best candidate in this race. So this November, I, Eric J. Rangel, number 9 on the ballot, ask for your support, I ask for your vote, and I ask for you to let me be your voice at City Hall. So together, we can be the voice of our community. Thank you, and God bless.
Ms. Almanza.
I ask you to vote for justice, freedom, and human rights. Vote for Susana Almanza, number 10 on the ballot. Together, we can work to improve the accessibility of affordable housing, assist small business owners, create jobs with a living wage of $15 an hour, improve the transportation and health care for all, and establish educational programs for children and adults. Les pido que voten por la justicia, la libertad y los derechos humanos. Vote por Susana Almanza, número 10, en el boleto electoral. Voten para asistir. Juntos podemos trabajar para más viviendas asequibles, asistir a las pequeñas empresas, aumentar a los servicios de salud y acceso al transporte y establecer programas educativos para niños y adultos. Vote por la justicia. Vote para Susana Almanza, número 10 en el boleto. Gracias.
Mr. Renteria.
Yes, thank you. I'm a family man. I've been married 34 years to my wife, Lori. I have raised 3 children. I have 4 grandkids. I retired from IBM after working for them for 34 years. I did over 40 years serving on boards, community, and commissions. You know, I'm a dedicated man to my family and my church. But I also want to let y'all know that I've been endorsed by ASME Local 1624, the Central Austin Labor Council, Stonewall Democrats of Austin, United East Austin Coalition, the Pride of East Austin, Austin University Democrats. So I've been out there. I have served my community, and I want to just take it a step higher and be your counsel to represent you in District 3, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Mr. Limon Fernandez. Sorry.
Thank you. First and foremost, this is not an entitlement to City Council. It's not about what you've done in the past. It's what you're going to do in the future. 3,200 family members, the Limon family. We have a strong Christian beliefs that we take care of our family and our friends. Ladies and gentlemen, you are my family. You are my friends. I will take care of you when we make it to City Council. It's all about family and compassion for the people, preserving our culture, having low-income housing available. I believe our neighborhoods, churches, and family values. This is what I bring to the City Council: dignity, respect, and a strong leader for District 3. Thank you.
Mr. Torrijos Bonilla.
Thank you. Muchas gracias. I am effectively American by calling. By this, I mean that back 11 years ago, I was making infant incubators because that was what I used to make back in Mexico. And then I got a calling, as if saying from the heart, saying, hey, Ricardo, you shouldn't be making infant incubators. You should be making incubators for the human soul, for the human spirit. And ever since I came to Austin, I've written 6 books, and they are inspired. And then I said, I have something to offer people, which are the triads, but I said, I am not a politician. I have never been in a neighborhood association. I will never be endorsed by anybody. All I do is write, study, work, and write books. I'm a pacifist, okay? I'm passive in the sense that I reflect and I write. I do not participate in politics. And then